Well, hello there. This is Lichess, the chess noob, learning and having fun with chess. I recently played this game just a day or a couple of days ago. I'm really proud of this match. It's really fun and exciting. And I hadn't actually played a tournament game for a while. I played for Team Australia against my opponent who was playing for Team New Zealand, cross-Tasman rivalry. Let's see what it looks like. This is a game that is of gothic horror, the Englund Gambit Queen Sacrifice line. Oh, let's go take a look. Now, my opponent had the white pieces, and they are a gentleman and civilized, so they play with 1d4, the Queen's pawn opening. Against that, I always played Englund Gambit. It's not a particularly, accurate gambit, but they accept here. Knight attacks, they defend with their own knight. Queen now adds an extra attacker, bishop, very normal, 2 attackers, 2 defenders. But in this position, we now have Queen to b4. It is the killer queen of the Englund Gambit. We enter the Englund Gambit Complex, or the Englund Complex. And in this position, white must play 3 very accurate moves to refute the gambit. And in fact, chess.com rates those 3 moves as excellencies. So you have to play 3 consecutive excellent moves to refute the attack. First move is backward bishop's move, bishop to d2, counterattacking the queen, but now we capture the p-pawn. And now, second excellent move, they have to develop their knight to c3, and number 2, here we would develop our bishop. And the third one, which is perhaps the easier one to find, is rook b1. If you look at the Lichess community database, white will find this about maybe about 30% of the time. For lower rated players, let's say players rated under 1,000, they only find it about 20% of the time. And this is why I think some people call the Englund Gambit hope chess. You're hoping that they don't find a refutation line, because it looks like in this position, you've got no choice but to play queen to a3. But after that, white has completely gained the initiative. They now leap forward with their knight, the queen's knight, to d5, a very good square for the queen's knight. That now has an attack on c7, which of course has that absolute fork of the king and rook. The knight also attacks the bishop. It also, the rook attacks the bishop attacks the bishop, attacks 3 ways. It looks absolutely dreadful for black. And it is. It's a slow, withering, unhappy place for black. So you might ask then, why do I keep playing the Englund Gambit? Is it in fact hope chess? Well, in this position, when white has basically entered the refutation line, we don't have to play queen a3. Now, I learnt of this line first from Grandmaster Aman Hambleton. He's a Canadian GM, and he used to really likes playing these sort of aggressive, tricky, sneaky lines, and he has had some good success with it, including at the highest level in competition, over the board, but also particularly in Title Tuesday. International master Eric Rosen has also played this line on his stream and on YouTube, again with some good results. What is that move? It's the Queen Sacrifice line. Queen captures the knight on c3. It's a tricky, sneaky line. Next few moves play themselves. Bishop captures with check. White can only block check with either the queen or knight, obviously not with the queen. Knight here, and in this position, in this game, I took with the knight. Now have a look at the article that's linked to this video in the description, because I cover a little bit of the history of this line, as well as the games from Hambleton and from Rosen. Check it out. Here, the sacrifice meets, I think, an idea from Rudolf Spielmann. So he was one of the last great romantic masters, playing romantic openings all the way into the 20th century when, sort of the zeitgeist really of how to play chess had passed. And one of the things he said was, let me have a look, a good sacrifice is not necessarily sound, but leaves your opponent dazed and confused. And this is, I think, an absolute representation of this. It's a gangster move. Lasker, the second world chess champion, also says something to the effect that one of the hardest games to win is the one game. White is winning. Black knows they're not winning, but it's not easy for white to play in this position because they have no development. We've got somewhat more development here. We've traded our queen for 2 of white's minor pieces. So white now has, I think, 5 pieces. We've got 6. And that numerical piece superiority can sometimes overwhelm in the opening. The other thing is, when we've only got minor pieces, we're never in a situation where we're worried that our queen is going to get attacked. So it sort of liberates you as a player with the black to play bombastic, swashbuckling moves, and what you're aiming for is really clear. Trying to get a tactical attack and getting a mate, and if that's not possible, wrangling a draw. Let's see what happens in this game. Now, white has to develop their rook. That's literally the most accurate move, but it's really weird this early in the game. And here, pawn, I develop another piece. They try to counterattack, but it doesn't work. Defended by the bishop. I'm trying to maintain that pin because it sort of locks everything potentially in place here. An attack, there we go, attack again. Here, attack again. And in fact, in this position, look at that, plus 0.8. So right at the beginning of the queen sack line, it's about plus 3. Here, white has already lost a lot of their advantage, and black actually has a counterattack. I didn't see this in the game, and I'll sort of keep this in mind next time, but a counterattack that black has now is knight attack that pawn. Okay, and here we've got 2 attackers, and what is white's best move here? It's hard to find. It's yet another rook move. Rook to f5 to defend that pawn is the best move. Quite hard to see. If they played a natural looking move, let's say queen to defend, it doesn't quite work because we have 2 attackers, they have 2 defenders, but both of my attackers are minor pieces. Their defenders is king and queen. Like against a king and queen, yeah, it's 2 versus 2. But, unless they want to lose their queen, it actually doesn't work. So very, very powerful attack here. Now, let's move back to this position. As I said, I didn't see that. So I end up chasing their rook again, and their rook just gets mercilessly chased. Here, best move, once again for white, is a very hard to see f4. Very difficult to commit, I think, that early in the game for something like that. Attack the rook. The rook, again, mercilessly chased. In this position, best moves for white, they play g3. Kind of makes sense. Maybe they're going to fianchetto because their queen's in that position. But it almost drops it back to 0-0-0. And the best move is either another rook move, which, the risk is they're going to end up with threefold repetition, which is fine for us. Or this very committal, f4 or g4. Difficult moves to commit to. All right. I now leap my knight forward because I see I've got these 2 attackers here. Only defender is king and queen. Doesn't really work. However, that's not that's an inaccuracy because white does have a way to block that, and they found it. My opponent played actually quite well in this game. Here we go. That's c3, blocking with the pawn. And in this position, I thought I better trade because I've still got more development potentially. I didn't want their knight to get into the action. So captures. I now short castle. They fianchetto their bishop. In this position, I wasn't sure really what was the best way forward. I needed to create an attack. I think Stockfish thinks that immediate thrust forward of the d pawn is best. However, I was thinking bringing the bishop back and targeting the f2 pawn would be useful. So for white, I think obviously they're going to castle short as well. And with the bishop here behind these pawns, that's going to keep that pin, it'll be keeping that f-pawn pin to the king, and I thought that was potentially going to be useful, and that's what ends up happening. So I play the bishop here. You know, it's a good tactical resource, even if it's not the most accurate move. A short castle. I'm thinking, no, maybe an attack on the rook, wasn't sure. They attack my knight with the pawn, leap forward. And here they play what looks like a pretty tricky move, an attack on the knight. Where is the knight going to go? And I found here a very clever move, I thought, a tricky move, not the most accurate, which is f5. And here, white needed to have, again, the patience to not take en passant. But feels very difficult to not do that, and they took en passant. It's a blunder, back to 0-0-0. I don't, again, see the attack here, but just shows how good potentially the attacking possibilities are for black in the queen sack line. Here, there's an absolutely lovely move. Knight captures the pawn on f2 immediately. And the reason for that is if white plays naturalistically, captures, yep, that is the right move. We now take that pawn with our rook, obviously now attacking the queen. Queen moves out of the way. They're probably going to play queen to d2. Very, very sensible looking with the defense, but it's a blunder because after takes, what is white going to do? Here, let's say they try to move the queen out of that attack. Let's say they move anywhere else. Let's say onto just here to the back rank. Well, rook now attacks the queen again. Discovered check, and they lose the queen. They have to move queen. Actually, that's even potentially mate. So this is an absolutely dreadful position for white, and the best move here for white, in fact, is just to take and trade the two pieces for the queen back. And here, white has completely lost their advantage. Black is winning. Very, very lovely move here. Now, here we go. In this position, I didn't see that. I saw this instead, which apparently was a mistake. But what I was seeing is this now gives my knight potential mobility with a discovered attack on white's queen. That's what I was aiming for. Here, they decided to push that pawn forward. Maybe pushing forward again there. I thought maybe that's going to be a potential problem. So let's just slide that forward. That locks that down. What are they going to do? Here they strike down this way. That's fine. I want to lock that anyway, and that doesn't cause any problems. Obviously, I'm not going to take en passant myself. That wouldn't make any sense. What I needed though was to open up this light square diagonal to give a space for my knight to jump into, and so tricky move, a d5. Stockfish thinks it doesn't quite work, wants this other way instead, because for white, their best tactic is to move that pawn out of the way to give the queen that potential maneuver. So, and of course, the bishop there prevents that. However, my idea, open up that light square diagonal, and you'll see in the final winning attack, that was really important. I thought they'll probably just take that, and that's fine for me. They take, and now I've got my attack. Knight forward, discovered attack on the queen, the knight is defended, and 3 attackers on that pawn. Completely winning. Queen moves to exactly the same square, queen a d2 trying to defend the f2 square. It's a blunder, back to 0-0-0. Their best move was to c4. And what that does is that it defends the rook on f1, also with that discovered check along that light square diagonal as well. Hard to find, very hard to find that move, I think. In this position, I now straight up capture. And here, it's defended. So if they take, then I take back with the other one. It's defended with just, their more higher value pieces. So they actually can't take that way. Almost any move, they really can't do anything. So they in fact moved the queen here because the logic here is after I move the knight afterwards, there's a discovered check and they needed to move their queen out of that attack. The interesting thing here is that white in this position has an absolutely devious counterattack, which I discovered on analysis. And that is rook f3, seemingly disconnecting, the rook from the f file. And then if black, and I probably would have fallen for the trap, to be honest, here we've discovered check with an attack on the queen. Yeah, sure, king moves out of the way. And then if you capture the queen greedily, it's a blunder of a mate in one because that is checkmate. So absolutely amazing trap for white, which I discovered in the position on analysis. However, in this game, they didn't see that. They did see a potential attack, so they moved their queen. But now I've got knight to h3, double check. And against double check, white's king must move. So that looks like it's hanging, but it's not. The king must move. And now, by this point, I had calculated a potential win, at least a draw by repetition, but a potential win with a tricky line. Rook captures rook with check. Once again, white must do something about the check. They can capture with either the queen or bishop. Either is actually ends up being the same. Here they capture with the bishop. And now, once again, check. And here, if they move the king here, then we end up with this, this problem with repetition. Remember, this is defended by my bishop as well. So here, they move in that position. Looks like I've got nothing left except, yep, bishop h3 with check again. Somehow everything is defended. And in this position, the knight covers that square as well. In this position, white's king has only two illegal moves. They can either go here or they can go here. Now, if they thought, if I go back to G1, it looks like there's going to be a repetition. Let's try to run the king. If they run the king, oh, that's a blunder, especially if they miss the fact that I've got a rook still on h8. They've got nothing else. Everything is covered, and that would be mate. So that would be an absolutely beautiful, beautiful reversal, winning unexpectedly with checkmate. Now, in this position, white didn't fall for that. They went back this way, but now it's repetition because check. And the only way they can avoid check is to either put the king back into the corner or they'll have to block with their rook or queen. But either way, they'll lose at least two pieces doing that. And basically, I get a winning endgame. So king checks is like a windmill, check, check. And in this position, we have a threefold repetition. It's a draw. I got my reversal. Great game. Good game. GG. The big takeaway from this game is to not be afraid to continue playing the Englund Gambit against the Queen's pawn opening, especially if you love swashbuckling romantic chess. Against the refutation line, the Queen Sacrifice line is a way to continue the initiative and get a good, fun game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.